Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, the channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. So is this what they meant when they said diversity is our strength? We need open borders, they say, unfettered immigration, laws controlling borders, vetting immigrants and especially illegal immigrants. That's racist. Well, we see leftist policy in action, and the end result, at least currently in France, can probably only be described as France is falling.
I wouldn't go to France. I wouldn't go to France because France is no longer France. France is no longer France. They won't like me for saying that. France is no longer France. And this world better be very careful, and they better get very tough and very smart.
You know, the leftist portrayal when it comes to immigration and uncontrolled open borders immigration is this utopic, beautiful, harmonious vision where all people from all different walks of life are just getting along in perfect harmony, adding to each other's strengths, cultures symbiotically meshing, creating this beautiful melting pot. But I think we're learning a hard lesson. The reality is, without proper assimilation, without laws and a very clear vision, the end result seems to be chaos, dysfunction, and hate. And that, my friends, is exactly what we're seeing in France currently. Some people are describing it as race riots. Let's take a look at exactly what's going on in France, and then have a conversation as to why these leftist policies are failing. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so let's first start off with the context, and let's get that context in the most favorable left-wing light. So let's see what CNN is saying. Protests are sweeping France, and here's what you need to know. France has been rocked by a wave of protest after a 17-year-old youth was shot by police near Paris on Tuesday, sparking a ban on demonstrations in some cities, travel warnings, and reigniting a debate on over-policing in marginalized communities. What sparked the protests? A police officer shot dead the teenager Nahel, who was of Algerian heritage, during a traffic stop in the Paris suburb of Nanterre earlier this week. It's interesting how the heritage of the individual is always relevant, always important, unless the individual shot is white. Footage of the incident captured by a passerby showed two different officers standing on the driver's side of the car, one of whom discharged his gun at the driver despite not appearing to face any immediate threat. The officer said that he fired the gun because he was scared that the boy would run someone over with the car, Nanterre prosecutor Pascal Prey said. Prey said that it is believed that the officer acted illegally in using his weapon. He is currently facing a formal investigation for voluntary homicide and has been placed in preliminary detention. And so there was a police shooting. There's video of the incident. It's clearly a case of resisting arrest. You can see one of the officers standing near the windshield. It's hard to tell whether the individual driving the vehicle was intending to step on the gas and floor it while the two police officers were latched onto the car. These instances are so high adrenaline and happen so quickly that it's hard to tell what the thinking was. It's hard to immediately jump to conclusions, but of course in these cases that's exactly what always happens. The police officer is guilty. It was racially motivated because the individual resisting arrest was of Algerian descent. And then of course, speaking of descent, the entire country descends into madness and chaos. Now, it's going to be hard for me to show you guys some of the clips. The algorithm immediately picks up on them as, quote, violence, and the video gets flagged, but let's just say France is burning. It's basically the summer of riots 2020. You could argue it's even worse. But what it really is open borders gone bad. We all know the story of Europe, especially over the last 10 years or so. Due to all the chaos in the Middle East thanks to the military-industrial complex, whatever conflict the globalist regime decides is next on the list, we've seen millions of Middle Easterners and North Africans flee across the Mediterranean, landing in places like Italy and Greece and other countries. And for the most part, they've been welcomed with open arms, especially in places like the United Kingdom and France. And while the leftist popular view is that they must show compassion and allow all of these refugees in, even though most of them are economic migrants, the reality of the situation is that there has never been a plan. There's never been a concrete plan. There hasn't been a concrete plan to house people, to assimilate, to educate, and to integrate these millions of migrants into the country. Not to mention, there's been really no attempt at all to vet these migrants. And so you have two aspects here. The basic economic condition that many of these people are living in creates the perfect breeding ground for crime. And the second element, well, you're probably also allowing criminal and extremist elements to enter your country because you're not actually vetting people. And this is the result. Total freaking chaos. And now resentment that is boiled up to a point where basically the country is burning down to the ground. It's latte liberalism, compassion at its finest. And of course, even in moments like these, the compassionate left is doing what they usually do.
pas vous battre, je vous en prie. Je ne vais pas vous battre. C'est ridicule. C'est ridicule.
No, please don't police the streets, that's racist. Don't police the migrants that are burning down cities, burning down buildings with people in them, assaulting people in the streets, and destroying everything in their path. Compassion. No, this ridiculous, ignorant, naive leftist worldview, this supposed compassion is what led to this chaos in the first place. There's no plan, there's no thought process. There seems to be no intention of creating a controlled system of immigration, integrating and assimilating these migrants into the country. Instead, the popular view is, well, collect brownie points. I'm the compassionate, open borders liberal, Emmanuel Macron. And from my understanding, all they've done is bring millions of migrants into the country and then pretty much ship them into ghettos outside of the Paris city center. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that basically you have Paris, which is this core nucleus of the city, and then you have ghettos in the surrounding areas where these migrants are being sent to with no economic opportunities. And so it's pretty much like the failed 1960s American projects, and now the French are pretty much reaping what they sow. You know, it's the same fake compassion that we see from leftoids. Let's continue to enable this war machine causing chaos in foreign countries with different values than us. Then after we've created this chaos and these power vacuums, let's open our borders to all of these quote-unquote refugees because we're compassionate. And what they mean by compassion is ship them into ghettos, out of sight, out of mind, dust off our hands, job's done, we're liberal heroes. And once the whole thing blows up in our face, I don't know, probably find another excuse. I mean, call me crazy, but this faux latte liberal compassion seems to be the core, seems to be the nucleus of all the cultural chaos that we see. You know, I just mentioned the point on modern liberalism in the United States, starting in the 60s and 70s, creating housing projects and the welfare state, these ridiculous pie-in-the-sky ideas and plans, which made liberals feel good in the moment, but in the end, at least in practice, the end result has been nothing but chaos, dysfunction, the destruction of the nuclear family, lack of opportunity, and dissolving school systems that are failing society. It's just crazy, you know, all this pie-in-the-sky, latte liberalism, idealist nonsense, bending over backwards for supposed marginalized groups, and the end result is poverty, crime, and race riots. Every single time. Maybe, just maybe, I mean, call me crazy, a little bit of structure, secure borders, proper immigration vetting, and a strong sense of country, community, patriotism, and assimilation goes a long way. I don't know, maybe. Or maybe I'm just crazy and what we're seeing now is progress. And you know, just speaking on the context of this police situation, the shooting of this 17-year-old Algerian teenager, I fail to see what the rioters are looking for here. It seems as though prosecutors have already locked up the police officer. He's facing homicide charges. I'm failing to see the injustice, you know, similar to the whole George Floyd situation. Well, obviously, once again, you have organized groups, agents of chaos, simply taking advantage of these sensitive issues. In other words, in this liberal utopia, race relations are more sensitive than they've ever been before, probably due to left-wing rhetoric. They take advantage of these situations, craft these narratives, and chaos ensues. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.